Well, it's been some time now since the Orlando shooting at the gay club took place that we can step back and we can see some of the incidents that have arisen around the result, like the things that have happened since then. Now, one of the things I did notice is that there's very little in the way of being able to blame this whole shooting on Islam. According to his parents and some people who knew him, the guy who did the shooting wasn't particularly devout. In fact, some of them said he wasn't even religious at all. But there was a very definite, clear symptom of homophobia that did run through his life. Now, people are correctly noting that the media is largely overlooking his homophobia as a reason or his justification for the shooting, but instead focusing on the fact that he's Muslim. And that a lot of people are saying that this is a way for the media to just pretend homophobia doesn't exist, or at least to try to minimize it so that it doesn't become an issue. Frankly, I think that's false. In fact, homophobia is openly discussed in media all the time, mainstream media. I'm not just talking about alternative things like blogs or Tumblr or Twitter or stuff like that. It is being discussed in the mainstream. I think the real reason that the media is not looking at the homophobia is because they're so used to looking at the Islam, the Muslim. Not to mention that when you create fear around Muslims or brown people or immigrants in general, it's a lot more effective than trying to demonize gays. Gays have been around for such a long time that there really is no big pool of homophobia that's that useful that you can draw upon. Of course, there is hatred against LGBT, but it is far easier and far more effective to try to scare people around Muslims, because there is such a backlash against homophobia right now. Now, a confidential source close to the investigation of the shooting says that police officers may have actually shot innocent people during that raid. Again, it's a confidential law enforcement source, so you have to wonder if it's even real at all. But I honestly wouldn't be surprised if it was real. Now, they said that it may have resulted in numerous patrons being struck by gunfire, according to WFAA ABC 8. So some of the people who died, which once the investigation's over, we would be able to tell by the bullets that were found in the bodies of the victims, whether or not they were shot by the AR-15 and whether or not they were shot by the police. So that information is still forthcoming. Now, once again, we're left with the situation where the gun is not the problem. The problem is capitalism and the poisonous social relations that come out of it. Okay, it's one of those things that people don't want to accept, or one of those things that makes it really easy for liberals and first worldists, because you don't have to actually fight capitalism. You don't have to actually stop these poisonous relations from happening. Just ban the guns. Well, don't worry, you don't have to actually engage in any real struggle. You just have to push the existing bourgeois political institutions to just carry out a ban. And that's a lot easier than actually overthrowing the system and building a new one with better social relations that don't lead to things like this. It's one of those things that we see with liberals. It's kind of this paradox where cops are racist, violent thugs who are a danger, but only they should be allowed to have guns, which really doesn't make any sense in my eyes. If you're saying that they're the bad guys and they do all these crimes, why should they be the only ones to have guns? It really doesn't make any sense. But then you also get them say only a paranoid psycho who thinks the government's going to turn tyrannical wants an AR-15. But then ask them what they think of Trump and they'll go, oh my God, it's Nazi. Since they really believe that Trump is a Nazi, what happens when he gets elected and the government turns totalitarian? Well, then they would kind of have been wrong all this time. But again, these are some ifs, not 100% knowns. But it is interesting to note the paradox of liberalism. You're essentially saying the police are the bad guys, but only let police have the guns. You only want a gun if you're paranoid, you think the government's going to turn tyrannical, and then denounce one of the candidates as being tyrannical. Now, I think it's really important to point out some things that are really getting missed by the media. The AR-15 is not an assault rifle. I mean, there's a very clear guideline for what constitutes an assault rifle, but the AR-15 is not it. In another instance, they banned assault rifles that have a forward grip on them, as if whether or not there's a forward grip on it would stop mass shootings or something. Like, just these things that just don't make any sense. Now, I believe that largely comes from two things. One, the public being ridiculously uninformed about firearms themselves, and two, a political wrangling over guns themselves. Okay, they want to ban guns, but there's another side that's going to resist it. So their lobbyists try to find some little thing to go around. Okay, we're not going to ban guns, we're going to ban the forward grip. Because if we don't make this kind of concession, then they're going to ban guns outright. So that's why I think a lot of that confusion actually arises from. Although I did notice something else. It's not just the liberals who are being silly about this. Conservatives are being silly about it as well. Here's a prime example. Milo Yiannopoulos, the guy running Breitbart, he said that there was a huge rise in gun sales among LGBT individuals after the shooting because he called for LGBT people to be armed. Well, no, you really kind of can't take credit for that. There's always a boost in gun sales after every mass shooting. And the fact that it targeted a gay club actually does make this different than most shootings in general, where you would expect the people who were the victims to want to buy guns, particularly a marginalized section of society like LGBT people. I see no reason for Milo Yiannopoulos to try to take credit for that. That's pretty egotistical on his part. And then the news came out that there is an app that you can get for your phone that gives the names and home addresses of anti-gun advocates. What's the point of that? So essentially, it's like a doxing service for people who want to ban weapons. Now, I don't support banning weapons, but this kind of app reeks of really creepy murderer, psycho gun nut, caricature that would push a lot of people to reconsider that they don't want to ban guns and make them want to. I mean, it's almost like they kind of want these people to ban their guns by doing like ridiculously creepy things like this. It's frightening. It's weird, and I don't know. It's just incredibly stupid that it almost makes you wonder if maybe it wasn't a government op that created the bloody app. But we'll see in the future. I think in this case there's really a lot of ridiculousness around this entire shooting. To simply blame the gun is absolutely false. To criticize the system itself and the inherent, social problems that arise out of capitalism is right to criticize. But it's so much easier just to blame the guns than it is to go out and carry out revolution. But it is the first world, and first world people are going to gravitate towards the simple solution that involves not actually going out and doing revolution. Thank you for watching. Won't you go ahead, rate, comment, subscribe, and share on various social media. And if you want, you can head over to my Patreon page and show your support. Or you could head over to the MRN bookstore and check out some of the latest books available.